Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson is an ordained Centers for Spiritual Living minister serving the Center for Spiritual Living Greater Baltimore community as our spiritual director. As a lifelong learner with a passion for self development, personal transformation, transmutation, and transfiguration, he has frequently been referred to as a Renaissance man and visionary New Thought leader who makes complex metaphysical concepts readily understandable and applicable. His mission is to live, move, and be an active member of society who serves to educate, elucidate, and emancipate people and communities to awaken and empower themselves. ACTIVE is an acronym that stands for authentic, compassionate, transparent, inspired, vibrant, and empowered. And he continues to live his bliss as a teacher, minister, author, workshop and seminar facilitator, visual artist, ASL interpreter, and ASL performing artist, mentor, father, grandfather, and more. I give you Reverend Dr. Ray.
Did she really just say, I give you more? She said, yep. Namaste, greetings, welcome, CSL Greater Baltimore. Today we are going to boldly go as Frank has so magnificently introduced us into this idea. Boldly go. But boldly go where? Well, if we want to be victorious, now keep in mind, last week and the week before, we talked about this idea of the triumphal or triumphant entry, right? When Jesus came in. So what does it mean to be victorious? If you want to be victorious, then you have to be willing to be vulnerable. We must be open of our heart space, let go of all of the egoic defenses that we have, and dare to live authentically. Here's the big thing, if we want the rewards of a life that is well lived. Is that what you want? Well, it's time to bring all of our creative selves, every aspect of ourselves, this creative energy, and whatever it is we are wanting to do, bring it all to the world. That's why we're here. So this week, it's not about judging the quality of a performance, a quality of how you're showing up. It's not about judging any of that. It's not about, labels and this was good and that was bad. This week, it's all about how each of us rises to knowing our authentic, living our authentic life purposes, our authentic life purpose, and then boldly going out in the world and doing exactly that. So if you're ready to boldly go, let's go with a question. Tracy's screaming upstairs, I'm ready. We'll see. We will see. So what does it mean for you to be victorious? Pause and ask yourself that question. What does it mean for you to be victorious? Yeah, I'm waiting for you to process. What does it mean for you to be victorious? Okay, Tracy's awfully quiet now. So the question is, are you victorious? Are you triumphant? Are you successful? Are you a champion? Now, think about this and ask yourself, am I triumphant? In what way does it show up? Am I successful? In what way does it show up? Am I a champion? In what way does it show up? Raymond Charles Barker says, The full symphony of your real self can only be heard when all of the windows of your mind are open to the fullness of life. The symphony, the expression of your true self, your real self, can only be experienced when you are open to the fullness of life. Now, what does that mean to be open? Well, let's ask the opposite. What does it mean to be closed to the fullness of life? Judgment, lack, scarcity, fear, animosity, all of that egoic stuff that, in that first slide it said lower those egoic defenses. All of that stuff limit us and block us to being able to live life fully, to live life boldly. Breathe. Because there's this idea, in order to really go there, and I mean really go there, there's the idea of what it means to be vulnerable. A lot of us tiptoe around, tiptoe through our life now. We don't want to get hurt now. And so we tiptoe gently because we don't want to be hurt. We don't like the idea of being vulnerable. Tracy's upstairs. Yep. Say it, Rev. Yep. But what does it mean to be vulnerable? Because there are a lot of concepts that come with vulnerability. And what we tend to focus on is the idea of vulnerable means weak. Vulnerable means I can easily be hurt. Vulnerable means there's risk. I am risking this failure. I am risking pain. I am risking suffering. But vulnerable is also being engaged. Vulnerable is being bold. It's right there in the center, under the LE of vulnerable. Vulnerable is being alive, being authentic. Vulnerable involves all of this. So vulnerable isn't a quote unquote bad thing. Vulnerable isn't necessarily something to avoid. Keep in mind that in the beginning, when Adam and Eve were both naked, because that was one of the things under vulnerable, naked. They were naked, Adam and Eve, and they were not ashamed. They were not afraid. There was nothing they needed to hide. And it wasn't until the idea of duality, lack, fear, weakness, etc., was introduced. It wasn't until then that they then felt, oh, we have to leave. I need to get some leave. And then they needed to cover up because now fear, now pain were introduced. So why don't we go back to that period of being able to be naked, being able to be authentic, being able to be bold in our lives and unashamed? Breathe. Eckhart Tolle says, you are not separated from nature. We are all part of the one life that manifests itself in countless forms throughout the universe. Forms that are all completely interconnected. And if you recall from last week, we talked about the mycelium and how it shows up, this connective tissue, this connective form, this connective spirit. All of God, all of the universe, all of the one must be intimately and absolutely connected, which means you are connected to the infinite, the all that is, and not just connected, you are it in your individualized, expressed form. And yet, as Darth Vader says, it is unwise to lower your defenses. Because we take that message in. Don't lower your defenses. If you're defenseless, you can be hurt. And there's a balance, because in nature, we find animals and plants have a natural defense. They didn't say, like the skunk didn't wake up one day and say, oh man, I keep getting attacked. I better get something that's going to spray some stink. Keep the other animals away. The armadillo didn't say, oh man, I need to go online and order some armor so I can turn into a little hard ball of armor so I can't be. The cactus didn't go out and buy needles. The rose bush didn't go out and buy thorns. It understands, nature understands. There's a balance between protecting legitimate protection, right? If Tracy and I and Renuka, when we go to New York in June, if something were to happen and they were in need of protection, would I step in to protect? Of course. I'm not going to stand back and say, you're God, and watch them get beat up, right? There's a balance. But this idea of egoic defenses is when we create our own false narrative about things we need to defend ourselves regarding. For example, real quick, on the Red Table Talk with Jada and Willow and Gammy, they had Janelle Monáe on recently. And one of the things that came up was this idea of being concerned, worried about, fearful of what other people think about us. Well, I don't want to come out because I don't know what my parents and brothers and sisters may think. Well, I don't want to move because what will my friends think? I don't want to take this job because what will someone else think? And as Jada said, well, what will you think? What are you concerned about? Why are you overly concerned with what someone else thinks about you and your authentic self? See, those defenses are the egoic defenses that we are invited to lay down and let go. Eric Butterworth says, in the divinity of each person, there is a changeless relationship with the principle in which every problem has an answer. Breathe that in. Every problem, quote unquote, every problem has an answer. That principle within has nothing whatever to do but to work for your highest good. That principle does what? Works for your highest good. The law works for your highest good. Spirit, the universe, works for your highest good. Why? Because you're it. Why would the universe, remember the passage that says, you cannot serve two masters, the house divided? Same concept. The universe isn't going to say, well, I will work for Sarah, but I will not work for Renuka. Like, it doesn't work that way. I will work for Frank, but I will not work for Tracy. It doesn't work that way. The universe works for its own good, and it is Sarah, and it is Renuka, and it is Charles and Tracy, and everyone and everything. It is that skunk, that cacti. It is all that is. And its purpose, its energy is to expand and evolve and expand and evolve and express itself in greater and greater and greater ways. To boldly go. Breathe. Because I know this is a challenge for some of us. Brene Brown says, authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we truly are. Let go of who you think or who someone told you you're supposed to be or what they think you're supposed to be. Let go of what mom, dad, let go of what minister, what priest, what neighbor, what politician. Let go of all of what they say you are or are supposed to be, and embrace who you and what you truly are. Brene Brown also goes on to say, authenticity is the courage to be imperfect, vulnerable, and to set boundaries. And there's this idea of you are whole, perfect, and complete, even when your perfection shows up in the world as imperfection. When you make mistakes, you're still perfect. The essence of who and what you are doesn't change, doesn't diminish just because you lost a job, just because you whatever. You don't lose your divinity. You can't lose it. That which you are is infinite, eternal, ever expanding. Ernest Holmes says, we must consciously know that we can use creative power. Reverend Ray's remix. We must consciously know that we are using creative power. The more complete such acceptance on our part, the more completely we shall be able to use this power for definite purposes. Reverend Ray's remix. The more completely we shall be able to use this power consciously for definite purposes. Consciously for definite purposes. Breathe. If I were to ask you to type into the chat, does anyone know what this Hebrew phrase is? Does anyone know what it means? Because it connects to this idea of definite purpose, definite. It means, because it's the tattoo in the center of my throat, it means ayun resh yud, absolute certainty. Now note, it doesn't say without a doubt. It says absolute certainty, to know and to know that you know and to act upon that knowing. So when you are consciously creating for definite purposes, you are creating from the energy of absolute certainty. I know who I am. I know what I am. And because I know, I am able to boldly create, to boldly go forward and live my life on my terms. Bold. How bold are you? How bold are you willing to be? Pause. What does it even mean to be bold? To be daring, to be gallant, to be brave, to be fearless. Pause. Because note that it doesn't say to fear none. It says to fear less. Fear less. To be enterprising, to be feisty. That's one of my favorite words. That might be my word for the week. To be feisty, to be courageous, and to be adventurous. Right? Because a lot of us play safe. Well, I was asked to, be the keynote speaker at this event, but I'm going to create some obstacle within my mind that makes me unavailable for this event, because I am afraid that if I get up there and speak, I will fail. So rather than fail, I will create an obstacle to prevent me from doing it in the first place. We do that often, but that ends today. Today, as Frank said, we are going to boldly go where we may have not gone before, but dreamt of going. We are going to boldly go into that visionary, expansive life to live long and prosper in our lives. We are going to truly step forward into what it means to be the very expression of Spirit, God, the universe, in this human form, living, moving, and having our beingness as it. Breathe. In the book, The Essential Rumi, it says, a new moon teaches gradualness and deliberation, and how one gives birth to oneself slowly. It's not a rush. Patience with small details makes perfect a large work, like the universe. The pyramids were not and done. It took time. The Sphinx took time. Statue of Liberty took time. The Grand Canyon took time. Sistine Chapel took time. The great work of your life takes time. Do not rush. You have eternity to live, move, and have your beingness as spirit expressing. There is no rush. And I know we say things like, do this because life is short. And this expression may happen within a certain amount of time. But when you accept the idea that this exists within a certain span of time, but what I am is without bounds, then does it really matter when this book comes to a close? No, because the next book will begin, and the next book will begin, and the next book will begin. So it doesn't matter if it's a pamphlet, an encyclopedia, doesn't matter ultimately. So live your life. Do what you feel called to do without the fear and the confinement of the world. Be willing to make mistakes. Be willing to miss the mark. Practice means that there are going to be times you are going to miss. So what? Learning to miss effectively can be just as valuable as hitting the target. Practice doesn't make perfect. You're already that. Practice improves your ability to get better and better. Whether it's an instrument, whether it is drawing or painting, there is always more to hone your craft. I'm sure if we pop Deletta back in and we said, hey, Deletta, because, Deletta teaches theater and acting and the whole, like, Deletta's that, what's it called? That triple threat. But Deletta's the triple threat, because Deletta is a woman of multiple talents. We say, hey, Deletta, I got a question for you. So does the actor get to a point where, or, the performer, the actress get to a point where I have my Oscar and now I'm done? Or does the actor, actress, director, producer, are they always honing their craft to be better and better and better? And because I know Deletta pretty well, Deletta's gonna be like, yeah, of course, like that's common sense. And yet, in our everyday lives, we somehow think that we're done. Like, once I get the degree, once I get my PhD, once I get this job, once I get this relationship, boom, I'm done. Once I become a licensed practitioner, I'm done. Once I become an ordained minister, I'm done. It doesn't work that way. It's constant, ever evolving consciousness that is living, moving, and having its beingness as each one of us, which means we are that constant, ever evolving consciousness in human form. There is no destination. The journey is the destination. The life is the destination. Right? This right here, right now, this moment right here, right now is the destination. And so is the next moment. And so is the next moment and the next moment. There is never a, I'm here and I'm done. Because that's not the way God works. God is always, ever moving, shifting, growing, expanding, evolving, showing up. Breathe. And gives Renuka a chance to catch it. Happy birthday to you. Okay, so Reverend Dr. Ray Anderson says, awakening to the authentic life is the point. It is the mark. Once awakened, the ability to consciously create is realized. Once awakened, the ability to serve is magnified. When you wake up actively, consciously, boldly, your ability to be who and what you are is multiplied, magnified. Breathe. Because as we get ready to wrap this up, we're going to do a little bit of math. Are you ready? Tracy said, ready. So let us begin with vulnerability plus an open heart. Vulnerability plus an open heart minus your egoic defenses, multiplied by your bold, audacious authenticity. Okay, follow the math, follow the math. What'd you say, Tracy? It equals love. Tracy said it equals love. It equals a victoriously rewarding, well-lived, creative life. Let's say that again. It equals a victoriously rewarding, well-lived, creative life. When we are vulnerable, have an open heart, what does that mean? To be compassionate, to be forgiving, to remove the defenses, the fear, the stagnation, all of that stuff that's blocking our ultimate expression. And then we multiply with bold, audacious authenticity. Breathe. We are here to live boldly. We are here to truly thrive, not just exist, but to thrive and live our best life experience moment by moment through this journey. For there is only one life, and that life is God, and that life is your life now. This week's opportunity to journal and practice our quote unquote homework. Ask yourself, where are you being invited to be more vulnerable? Where are you being invited to open your heart more? What defenses are you being invited to lower? What bold, audacious authenticity are you being invited to express in and as your life? And then lastly, have a conversation with tres personas, 3 people, about what it means for you to live the journey of a bold, victoriously rewarding, well-lived life, and what you are practicing in order to create and live this life. Breathe. This week's affirmation declaration, I will say it first, and if you feel in alignment with it, say it with me on the second go round. I dare to be me. I am hot stuff. Okay? If you feel in alignment, say it with me. I dare to be me. I am hot stuff. Ha ha. Tracy, ha ha. Come on, Tracy. God morning, hot stuff. Yes. Ha ha. Breathing, we breathe in and anchor to that boldness that is spirit, that boldness that is God, that boldness that is living, moving, and having its beingness as us. That bold, hot stuff that is love made flesh. Hot stuff, creativity made flesh. Hot stuff, spirit, the divine, the infinite, the all that is. Right here, right now, in, through, and as us. Moving, breathing, creating, demonstrating, manifesting this victoriously rewarding and well-lived life because we deserve it. Because we deserve it. Anchoring and grounding into that, I allow the law to do what it does. Say yes. To accept, to say yes. To act upon these words, this prayer, this treatment, the words of Deletta singing, the pre-service meditation by Frank, the spiritual practice by Frank, and all that happened. The law says yes, and yes, and yes. And because it says yes, I am confident and certain and definite in my surrendering and allowing this to be what it is. Answered prayer. It is because God is, and so it is. Namaste, blessings. See you over in Zoom. Love you much.